Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Anti-Doping Podcast, brought to you by the Partnership for Clean Competition. I'm your host, Dr. Marie McNeely, and today we are joined by our guest, Rusty Smith. Listeners, Rusty is Head of Research Programs at the Partnership for Clean Competition, or PCC, and today we are looking forward to discussing his role at the PCC, different PCC funding opportunities, anti-doping collaborations and partnerships, and more. So, Rusty, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well, and I appreciate you joining me for this conversation. And for any listeners out there who might be new to the podcast or new to the Partnership for Clean Competition, can you briefly introduce the organization and tell us a little bit more about what it does?
So the Partnership for Clean Competition is an international sports partnership founded in 2008 that is focused on promoting, preserving the integrity of sport through grant-funded research focused on many different facets of the detection and deterrence of doping in sports. We were originally promoted through the generous partnership of 4 different founding partners, being the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee, the National Football League, Major League Baseball, and the United States Anti-Doping Agency. We also now have the PGA Tour as well as one of our major partners, and we've had other partners come and go over the years. And as always, we are open for new business and new great partners to come and join in the efforts that we do.
Well, we're excited to learn more about the PCC and talk about what you do there. So let's perhaps go into a little bit more detail about your specific role, Rusty. Can you talk about what you do as head of research programs and perhaps how you came to the organization?
So I mainly run and manage the day-to-day operations here at Partnership for Clean Competition. We do a number of great works. Obviously, our bread and butter is in the grant funding and research, but we also run a lot of different programs, and we'll kind of get into those later on in this conversation. But overseeing the day-to-day operations, making sure that we're staying true to the work that we have done all of these years, making sure that we're providing benefit to the sports world, the anti-doping world, and of course, our partners along the way. We also do a number of various outreach programs and things that we do through social media. Obviously, this podcast is one of those. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of those areas where you can find a little bit more of the work that we do. How I came to this organization is, as I've listened to the PCC's podcast over time, sounds very similar to some of the other folks that you've had. This is a very obviously niche industry that we work in here. And many of the people that find themselves in this industry did not originally set out to be in this realm and have kind of found themselves here over the years. Myself had a very different avenue that got me to this point. Most of my career was working in Texas at the state level in politics and policy, and very specifically on natural resource. So talking about energy, agriculture, and water was really my bailiwick during that time. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity while living in my home area in the state of Texas, which was over in West Texas and specifically in Lubbock, was running an academic research consortium at Texas Tech University there in Lubbock, focused on research to determine if we could adequately, efficiently, economically, and environmentally safe treat produced water from oil and gas operations for reuse outside of the world of oil and gas. That sounds like a lot. Let me kind of explain a little bit more of the background of that. So the underlying issue here being, much like many, many places around our world, Texas was a water-starved state, as is much of the United States, much of the world. We're looking for ways to find new sources of water around the world, and specifically, obviously, with this being a Texas-related consortium, working to try to find new sources of water in Texas. So the point of the consortium was really to determine, with this other water source that had never been considered before, could we possibly clean it up to a point where it could be utilized to help satiate some of that water need around the state? There are multiple states working on it. New Mexico, Colorado have their own consortiums as well. There was a lot of great work that was being done through those organizations, but a very, very similar role in nature to what I'm doing now with PCC, which is running at its core a research consortium, a partnership of people looking to try to answer questions through research and through funded research. While it's not definitely in the vein of sports anti-doping, it's very much similar in the nature of how we operate this organization and what we're going to be looking to do in the coming years.
Absolutely. So do you have a personal connection to sport yourself?
Sure. I grew up playing sports, kind of a little bit of everything. I grew up in rural West Texas. So when you're in a rural small school like that, you kind of do a little bit of everything. You play baseball, you play football, you come off the field at halftime and you join the band because you don't have enough folks in the band. So you go out and play with the band. You do a little bit of everything. So yeah, I absolutely grew up playing sports. I love watching sports. My family may not appreciate it as much as I do on the Saturdays in the fall, of course, but very happy to be where I'm at and just especially excited to be another component that's working to preserve the integrity of what sports mean to everybody. The world of sports anti-doping is a very interesting thing that it's always occurring at all times around us, whether we as lay people acknowledge it or not. You hear about a scandal every now and again, you get a Balco, you get some big flare up, and it thrusts back into the spotlight to remind you that there really is this concerted effort being undertaken by these major partners to preserve their player health and safety, while we're constantly looking to improve their ability to do that through the PCC.
Absolutely. I think doping is a huge problem. And one of the things I love about the PCC is how it brings all of these different players together to try to solve this problem. So let's talk a little bit about some of the PCC's programs. Can you maybe talk about the funding opportunities that the PCC offers first?
Absolutely. So, I mentioned this before, truly our bread and butter is through our grant program applications. So these grants are designed to encourage our researchers to come forward to tackle a number of issues that are all kind of laid out through our website. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into those issues here in a little bit. There are also some other areas of funding that we want to highlight. Over the years, PCC has had many different tracks that researchers can look to if they're interested in various things that they want to bring forward in anti-doping. I want to talk a little bit about a fellowship program, which is an exceptional program designed to take these up-and-coming researchers and place them with labs and other research institutions that are going to help them progress in their career in the anti-doping science world, as well as kind of dovetailing in with potential grant opportunities through those programs as well. Like I said, we've also had a number of other programs that we've done over the years. And with the new year coming around, we're coming up on, I believe, the 17th or 18th year of our existence. We just passed 15 a few years ago. We're going to be looking to retool and trying to identify potentially some new programs or new areas of focus that we want to offer to folks just to stay current, to stay relevant, to make sure that we are hitting on what anti-doping world needs, what the science and the world requires in that vein, and making sure that we're helping our partners to achieve their greatest efforts, like I said, in preserving their player health and safety and giving an opportunity for those players who are, by all aspects, massive role models in our world these days, giving those players an opportunity to continue to show that positive impact to every level, and especially to our children, that we are clean, healthy sports, we preserve the integrity, and that you can be an upper echelon, top level athlete the right way.
I love that. Well, if our listeners out there are scientists themselves and they're thinking about applying for a PCC grant, can you talk a little bit more about what the application process looks like right now?
Sure. We do 2 rounds of grant applications every year. Pre-applications are due February 1st and August 1st of every year. Pre-application's a pretty easy process, kind of a slimmed down version, almost just an abstract of what the researcher's proposing. We put those through a review process, and then we have, for those that are selected to move forward, a month later, they're invited to provide a full application into the PCC, which then goes through a very rigorous review process with our scientific advisory board. Their review and recommendations are then passed along to the full board of the PCC, who then ultimately votes whether or not to pursue some of those grants. All of this happens in a matter of just a few months, twice a year. And the next round of pre-applications will be open February 1st of 2026. So highly encourage anybody with even just a passing glance of a desire to pursue this. I highly encourage them to get onto our website, into our grants page, and to go and apply by February 1st.
Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing those details. And just to kind of emphasize, the pre-application is very short, very easy. And I think it's a really easy lift for listeners out there who might be considering applying, but worried about what the time commitment would look like. And I think that pre-application is a really effective screener for identifying what could potentially be viable for a full application without having everybody have to go through doing the more detailed application process.
Yes, ma'am.
Then let's talk about the PCC's funding priorities. I think this is a question that we get a lot in terms of, is my research relevant? Should I be applying? What are you looking for?
There is a very helpful section on our website under research priorities. If you go to our About tab and then click on research priorities, really lays out the major tenets of what the PCC is looking for through these grants every year. I know we've also done some webinars and podcasts previously on the application process itself and what we're looking for, but just to illustrate a little bit of what we're talking about here, obviously, the main focus again is how can we improve the detection and deterrence of doping in sports to preserve the integrity of our sports organizations and our sports? Under that, if you really want to dive into it, we start talking about efforts that are going to move the needle on cost-effective testing for the detection and deterrence. So this is an area that I'm really excited about trying to have a more heavy emphasis on coming into this next year and beyond of a research and development or a commercialization aspect to testing methods. Everything that we've done, and we've got well over a decade of great scientific research on new drugs, new molecular makeup, new methods of testing and detection using things like chromatography, mass spectrometry. But I think oftentimes we forget at the most simple level, just making simple improvements to our methods of testing can actually be a really great way to move the needle on the detection piece. The way I like to think about it with some of our partners, they're currently doing several thousand drug tests a year with their player athletes. If we are able to make that process even just more economically efficient for them, now instead of only being able to perform, let's say, 10,000 drug tests in a year, if we're saving them money through and novel, better testing methods, they're able to perform for the same cost, more tests. That's really going to drive the detection part and the deterrence part of what we're working on. So just a brief aside there to say, I'm really excited to promote more in the research and development commercialization aspect of what we do. And then, of course, getting beyond that, there's a lot of great work that we do with our scientists through all the various other parts of, like I said, improving the testing methods that we've got through chromatography, mass spectrometry. We've got translational research groups that also work in the back end to develop new tests. For instance, we have a collagen turnover working group that has been working for many years now on developing new assays for the detection of things like IGF-1 and P3NP. We're moving essentially from these immunoassay kits that you normally have to do into the world of chromatography mass spectrometry, which is a very common piece of equipment that we find in our labs. So that move and that effort to develop those new and novel assays is, again, something that's going to really help through both an economic piece of bringing down the cost of that testing, but also make it more widely available through this very commonly used piece of lab equipment to make sure that we have a very level set approach to testing, something that all labs around the world would be able to take on, and really very excitingly kind of continue to progress what we see in the world of anti-doping. And then getting beyond the more obvious veins of creating new novel methods for testing, developing better methods through our existing equipment, we also get into something as simple as just reference material synthesis, providing documentation on what exists out there that's helpful for our labs, and then also getting into the realm of the social sciences as well. So really trying to, on the deterrence side, take it a step back and say, what leads us down this road to begin with? I think this is an area that's very important, very critical to the work that we do. We're talking about athletes here that are really role models for our children out there, for teenagers, for young adults, everybody in this vein. They're always bombarded in this day and age through social media, through advertisements for the latest thing, the hottest new trend, the biggest TikTok craze that's going on. And it's tough. It's tough to mitigate with that kind of pressure hitting them from all sides. What are they seeing? What are they taking in? What's the truth and the reality behind what they're being offered? So on the social science aspect of trying to determine what really drives a human being towards taking drugs or even just taking vitamins or stuff over the counter that they may or may not be aware of, what's in it, what's it doing to your body, really kind of getting to the root of, is there a way for us to be proactive on the front end to say, here's how we could potentially stop some of this behavior up front before we even have to worry about the detection piece of it.
Definitely. Well, it sounds like the PCC has a broad range of different kinds of projects that it's interested in. So let's talk a little bit more about the grant review process then. Once somebody submits, you mentioned that it is reviewed by the Scientific Advisory Board. Let's talk then about what applicants can expect from this review process.
I would say that it's basically a full service process. We have an application portal that all the applications are submitted into. All of our Scientific Advisory Board then gets into that portal. They review all of these grants. I'll also make a nod to the fact that this past grant cycle we had here in the fall of 25 was actually the largest amount of applications we've seen in our history, which is very exciting for us to know that we're moving forward and growing in the field that we're working in. So the grant applicants that come in, they'll apply through this process. Our scientific advisory board reviews all of those applications. They provide their comments. We actually host a whole meeting with just the scientific advisory board to go through and specifically review every grant, talk about the pros, talk about the cons, provide essentially their final recommendations that then go on to our full board. Once the full board has made their decisions, we then follow up with all grant applicants, good or bad, to let them know, did they proceed forward? Are we not moving forward with their grant at this time? Provide them feedback through what the scientific advisory board and the board felt on their grant applications. We encourage everybody to utilize the feedback that we've provided to strengthen their grant application and to make sure that we're providing benefit, obviously, to our partners and what we need to see in the anti-doping science world, but also making sure that we're providing benefit to those researchers to let them know, here's where we see things moving. Here's where, if you're truly interested in going down this path, here's how we think that you could tweak your application or tweak your research to move forward more successfully with us or in any vein as it relates to sports doping. And then for those that are approved, we begin a process of working with them on obviously just hammering out the fine details before starting up their projects, which can span anywhere from a year up to 2 years.
Well, that makes sense. Well, I appreciate you sharing those details. And in terms of just thinking about the bigger picture for the Partnership for Clean Competition, I think these grants are a huge piece of the work that you do, but partnership is, of course, in the name. So let's talk about some of these partnerships and collaborations. So Rusty, how does the PCC collaborate with other stakeholders in the anti-doping community?
I can't emphasize enough how appreciative we are of the partners that we've had over the years. The NFL, MLB, USOPC, USADA, the PGA Tour. And then obviously when we have conference years, and I think we'll talk about that here in a little bit, during our conference years, we see many more participants come in to help sponsor some of those as well. It's been incredibly encouraging to see how these organizations step forward to really, for lack of a better term, put their money where their mouth is. They are not just saying we're committed to player health and safety. They're actively pursuing how to make sure that they're achieving that for their organizations and for sports as a whole. So it's really great to work with all of those founding partners, all of our board members that represent those organizations. And then, of course, beyond that, we do over the years, we worked with WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, to help jointly fund significant research that really moves the needle for everybody. We have some amazing international research facilities and some international partners that we want to make sure we get into the fold and working with us as well, because this issue exists worldwide and it's not unique to any one country. We all face the same challenges. We all face the same issues, especially when we talk about Olympic Games that brings together the entire world to show and to prove who is the best of the best among us. So it's really important that we're all working together to move forward, promoting, preserving the integrity of sport and doing what really comes best for all of our organizations.
Definitely. And you touched briefly on the PCC conference. I think this is definitely a highlight for a lot of people. So can you talk a little bit more about the conference?
Absolutely. So every other year we host a conference. We had one this year, 2025. We held in New York with the help of our great partner organization, MLB. The conference is really our opportunity to highlight, to showcase the work that we've done, to bring forward our researchers that have been working on PCC-funded projects, to really provide updates on the work that they're doing, to provide some finality if we're past the end of the project date, to provide an outlet for the latest advancements in the world of anti-doping science, and obviously give the PCC an opportunity to kind of highlight where we're headed in the future as well. Earlier this year, like I said, we held a conference in New York. We had folks come in from every corner of the world over 2 days to highlight, like I said, to go through these programs that we've got that are coming out, the projects that we've been funding. We do that dovetailed with our major partners and the issues that they want to see as well. So giving a chance for everybody to network, giving a chance for everybody to come together to see what the PCC is doing, where we're headed, and give us an opportunity, more importantly, to hear from everybody. We have these moments where we look at these projects, we interact with our scientific researchers, we interact with organizations, but having a conference where we all are face to face, where we have an opportunity to really directly hear feedback from folks on what we're doing right, what we need to focus on, what are the new areas, the places that we need to head in the future is an incredibly invaluable opportunity for us as well. Another critical part of what we like to see at our conference as well is discussions with athletes to gain athlete perspective. You also start to see more of that emphasis on this podcast as well as we move forward of trying to make sure that we really are balancing both the progression of the scientific research that we do, but also staying true to who are we serving here. We can never forget that at the end of the day, we're talking about real human beings and the work that we do, both ourselves, the work of our partners, and the entire realm of anti-doping in sports really boils down to a human impact. At the end of the day, there is somebody that we are working with that is impacted by everything that we're doing. So it's an amazing opportunity also to hear directly from athletes that have gone through this process, that have dealt with sports testing and anti-doping science their entire lives, how it impacts their lives, what they like to see from the outcomes of our work and our research. And it really just gives us a chance to remind ourselves the importance of what we're doing and the real impact of what we're doing here at PCC. So I really appreciate the work that goes into it. And I'll give a shout out to our manager of communications and operations, Jocelyn Quiles, who's been just amazing at pulling together excellent conferences the last several years, and looking forward to seeing what she's got in mind for 2027 as well.
Definitely. And I think that is such a remarkable part of the PCC conferences, because I think you're absolutely right. Oftentimes, scientists working in their labs don't get to hear that perspective. So I think it's tremendously valuable. And now, Rusty, we talked about some of the wonderful partners and members that the PCC is working with now and has worked with over the years. But what if some of our listeners out there, say, work for a sport organization or another organization that is really invested and aligns with the PCC mission? Can you talk about what the opportunities look like for becoming a member or a partner?
We are here to work with anybody and everybody that believes in our mission, that believes in the work that we're doing, that believes in what these founding partners and our participating sponsors have put together. We are all the time looking for new folks to come join in the fight. Anybody and everybody is welcome to come be a part of the work that we're doing here. So we don't have any one set structure for how we bring in sponsors and partners. I like to visit with each organization individually, see what they're looking for, what they're looking to achieve, what they're looking to get out of the work that we do here, and how we can serve their organization while obviously staying true and maintaining the general work that we've always done and that we're best at. So I encourage anybody that's out there listening to this podcast, anybody that's worked with us before, looking to the future in this 2026 year and beyond. I'm really looking to kind of amp up the groups that we work with, the folks that we serve, looking to really bring more benefit to those partner organizations so that, like I said, we can continue the great work that we're doing, but also make sure that we're keeping an eye on how we provide the greatest support to those groups that are really trying to preserve the integrity of sport and to promote their player health and safety through whatever vein that is that they do.
Excellent, Rusty. And as you mentioned, the PCC has developed amazing partnerships over the years. And for listeners out there who might be considering getting more involved, 2026 is definitely the year to do it. So let's talk a little bit more about what's next for the PCC. Can you maybe share what the organization's goals are for 2026 and beyond?
I've touched on it a little bit throughout the conversation, but with over 15 years under our belt of working in this vein, I think we have an incredible foundation and body of work laid out before us of the latest advancements in science, but there are always going to be opportunities for us to grow and to continue to tackle the new challenging efforts of our time. Obviously, AI is a massively growing area of interest / concern, I would say. I think it can be a tool that's going to be incredibly helpful, but it can also be a great hindrance to what we're doing. So moving forward, looking at how can AI be used for the greatest benefit, the greatest good in what we're doing. I think we've already got some projects that we're looking at funding or have funded that go into this realm of how can AI be useful to what we're doing. And I'm incredibly excited about those. Also, like I said, an increased emphasis on research and development and commercialization of physical technologies to be able to move the needle forward in detection and deterrence of doping in sports, I think is going to be a great area that the PCC is really looking to be a leader in.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of exciting things coming down the pipeline here, but I think a lot of big challenges and problems remain in the anti-doping world. And oftentimes there are barriers, whether it's limited funding or just technology and feasibility. So if we took away the problems that normally stop you, Rusty, and you had all of the resources you could dream up, what is the one problem in anti-doping that you would most want to solve?
I'm going to cheat here and I'm going to say two things, but they're highly correlated. One of the biggest problems that we see is this rise of supplements and energy drinks and other additives making their way into our products. It's something that really kind of plagues the competitive sports world, but I think it's really a problem that we see up and down the line, all the way down into obviously our children. Every age group taking products that may not be FDA regulated, may not be tested, may not be safe, and even if they are from reputable sources, may still contain products that can cause adverse analytical findings. And so that's really first and foremost the biggest issue that I see that I would love to solve. And then correlated with that is really just the rise of the internet and social media and this influencer culture where folks find commercial opportunity in pushing products that they may or may not use, may or may not believe in, but you kind of see it everywhere. And so we've got this rise of these products, and a large part of it is kind of being force multiplied by people everywhere talking about various different things. It's in your constant barrage of advertisements everywhere you go on the internet these days. So really those two kind of things playing off of each other would be something I would really love to address.
Certainly. Well, Rusty, I think these are both tremendously important and, as you alluded to, interrelated items that are a problem in the sport and anti-doping space. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And for our listeners who have enjoyed the conversation today and want to learn more about the Partnership for Clean Competition, more about you, and more about these research grants that we discussed, what is the best way for them to get more information?
If you're listening to this podcast, you've already found us through that route, which is great. These podcasts are then uploaded onto YouTube. We're looking to make more content as we move forward into this year on YouTube. So hoping to bring in some more presentations from our grantees, bring them in to talk about the work that they're doing, really highlight and showcase what they've got going on. We want to have an increased presence for our partners as well. Like I said, it's very commendable, the work that they're doing to make sure that they're really putting forward their best foot for protecting their player health and safety. So how can we help them promote the programs that they're doing, give them a kudos to the work that they're doing generally, and provide those routes and veins for them to highlight that work as well. We've got multiple different social media channels. We're on all major platforms. So X, Facebook, LinkedIn, Blue Sky. We really try to make it accessible to all people that are interested in following the work that we do. We post updates to those. We post papers from our researchers. We also post articles and papers from researchers that weren't PCC funded. Because again, at the end of the day, our goal, our mission here is to promote and improve and preserve the integrity of sport. And we do that through championing anybody and everybody that's working in the space that's helping us to kind of push that needle forward. So multiple different ways. And I've obviously also mentioned our website many times throughout this discussion, but cleancompetition.org is our website. You can find out more information about what we do. You can find out more information about the programs that we offer. And then, of course, it's going to provide links and ways for you to apply for those grants and those programs through that website as well. So for anybody that's interested in getting in touch with us, I encourage you to start at our website. There are obviously multiple pathways to reach us as well. If you're interested in the work that we do, if you're interested in partnering with us, becoming a sponsor, you can email us the general email address, pcc@cleancompetition.org. You can also reach out to me directly, rsmith@cleancompetition.org. Either of those work. And I look forward to working with you, hearing from folks, seeing how we can improve what we've done right, where we can continue to build. And I look forward to those interactions.
Fantastic. Well, Rusty, thank you so much for sharing all of those resources. Listeners, definitely take some time to get connected with the PCC on the different platforms. Check out the website and get in touch if you have any questions or if you want to explore opportunities for partnership and collaboration. And Rusty, it's been such a pleasure to have you here on the show today and to learn more about you and what you do.
Thank you, Marie. And right back at you. We're very thrilled with the work that you've done with us and on this podcast. It's always a pleasure to work with you and to hear the great interviews that you provide for our organization. So thank you very much for your service as well.
Well, thank you. And listeners, it's been wonderful to have you here with us as well. If you haven't already, we would appreciate it if you could take a moment to rate our podcast, subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And please note that the Anti-Doping Podcast features a wide variety of clean sport experts, and episodes may include statements and/or viewpoints that do not necessarily reflect the views or values of the PCC. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Anti-Doping Podcast.